everybody. Daily Distinction time. We are here on the weekend. And as you know, on weekends, we tend to be a little more casual and just have a short check-in with one single idea for you. So I hope your weekend is going very, very well. It's, let me check. It's only 103 in Las Vegas, which means we're down about 10 degrees from what we were. How about that? It's pretty incredible, but it's a great day. Hope you're doing great today. Thank you for being here for Daily Distinction. If you are new to Daily Distinction, and I kind of forget that every day we're getting new viewers, it's probably because somebody has shared it. And as my friend Ken Walls always says, sharing is caring. So thank you, guys, Scott, Charles, Pam. Good grief, we got so many great folks. Bonnie, who share this all the time. Hey, Scott, great to see you. Thank you. Hey, Carrie, always good to see you here. Thank you. Happy Sunday to you, too. And see you tonight on the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. You're always a great contributor to that. Look forward to it. Bonnie, great to see you in Chicagoland. Hope things are good where you are. And beautiful 80 degree. Good grief. You're 20 degrees cooler than we are, Charles. Great to see you. And thank you for being a part of the upcoming program that we're doing as well. So thanks for that. So today we want to talk about a couple of things. I'll get the topic first that I'm going to tell you about. The Ultimate Business Summit and post-pandemic events, the things we got going on that are so cool and so important. But one of the things that really struck me is that we have to understand that one of the most important things that we can do is get back to square one. Get back to square one. What does that mean? As we look at the upheaval that is going on in the world today, as we look at all the incredible change that's happening in the world around us, sometimes it's time to remind ourselves that we need to get back to square one. Here's what I mean by that. Sometimes we get so consumed by and invested in our previous experience that it's tough for us to see things objectively. If you've had a bad time with a particular airline, and then a new management team comes in and they're going to make that airline better and get them back to serving customers, you kind of find it little hard to believe that, right? Because you've had that bad experience and you're invested in that experience and you still have emotional attachment to being frustrated and upset and mad. So when they say, hey, we'll make it better next time, right? Uber Eats, some of you were watching the other day when I was talking about the horrible experience that Tammy and I had here with Uber Eats. And you know what they did? They didn't do anything to help us in the situation we were in at that particular time. They gave us a discount for the next time we buy from them. And that kind of infuriated us because if you can't deliver it this time, why would we believe that you're going to do it right the next time, even with a discount? We're invested in that. But sometimes that can be one of the worst things that happens to us, is that our experience puts us in tunnel vision. So I get it, Danny. I fight it too. A lot of this I need to be hearing for myself as much as I enjoy sharing it with you, because we have to continue to hear that. Charles, you're one of the best sharers that we have. Thank you for sharing it. Oh my gosh, Carrie, only 70 in Canton. I bet it does feel like fall. I didn't realize it was, you were having weather like that back there. I got to check in with my family back in Indiana. I haven't asked them what the weather is, but that's something. I didn't realize it was that cool. So we get consumed and we get invested in our experience. And we've talked on here about the echo chamber before. We've talked here about the self-fulfilling prophecy before. And this is part of that, but it's not completely that. It's that, when I was growing up, one of the things I heard constantly was experience is the best teacher. And in my early career, I found that to be true. If it was in broadcasting, the more that I was on the air, the more proficient I got with the skills that it took to keep a radio show going or a television. When I first went on television, I had some real problems because I'd always been geared to radio. And see, like radio, it doesn't matter where you're looking because the audience can't tell the difference because all they're hearing is your voice. Now we get on this and we want eye contact. And so to make eye contact with the camera and to communicate with the camera like I was talking, the way we talk on Daily Distinction, I hope you feel like if we met each other, we bumped into each other in the airport, or we met each other at UBS in person, or we did something that our conversation would be much the same. Well, that's not something that we typically are really good at doing just off the bat with a computer screen, an inanimate object where you're not getting feedback from listeners. So it took a while to learn that. And so the more experience that I had, I think the better that I got at it. But here's the problem. What happens when times change and techniques change and tools change and everything else changes? I mean, the radio program that I used to have to go into the studio to do back when I was working in radio, I could do from the house now. Seriously. I mean, I could sit in front of the microphone upstairs if I had somebody that would, hire me to be a talk radio broadcast. I could do that from the house now. You don't have to go in the studio. The world has changed, and how we can communicate here, the world has changed. Gary Vaynerchuk predicts that in the next decade, that one of the biggest producers of original content for video is going to be Facebook, because millennials, but particularly Gen Z, they don't care if they're watching on Netflix or YouTube or Facebook or NBC. So the experience that those network executives at NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, that might be holding them back from making the right decision. See what I'm saying? Because if you base your decisions now based on your experience, it doesn't necessarily move you to the future. So that's what square one thinking is kind of about, because the problem with our experience is it tends to lead us to disregard information that disagrees with how we learn how to do it. I mean, the way we learned how to do it, and this experience is so important. And see, when I was starting as a speaker, one of the things that we would do is you weren't just a speaker, you were an orator, you were a lecturer. And so you tended to be more dramatic. It sounds so silly now, right? But that was kind of the way that you learned, and kind of the way that you were taught was you were supposed to be a little more dramatic and have a little more of a flair. And that just doesn't work nowadays. It just doesn't work these days. So, I got a list of things we need to put behind me. Yeah, there you go. That is good. Charles, hey, Weldon, good to see you here too. So that's what we have to ask ourselves, is that are we trapped by our experience? My great friend, Charlie Plum, we were just on a conference call a couple days ago. Charlie is a great friend. He was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for over 6 years. And one of the things that Charlie has talked about ever since his release is what he calls prison thinking. He learned that he was confined by his prison cell in North Vietnam, but he realized that he had confined himself even more because of how he was thinking, that he couldn't think outside the walls that he had built in his mind. And one of the things he talks with folks about is, are you a victim of prison thinking? And I think that's where a lot of us are. I'm going through that right now. I'm struggling with that right now as the meetings industry has been decimated. Basically, the way I paid my way through college, and then with the exception of a couple of years, my total income was based on getting on a plane, going somewhere, standing on some company stage or some association stage and being the speaker for their group. Now there's none of those. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, Matt, I appreciate you remember that. Yeah, Taxi Terry's kind of dramatic. You gotta make it a little dramatic on some of those. I appreciate you remembering that. Thank you. Oh, there you go, Robin. HEB. It's so funny. You mentioned them. One of the last speeches I gave before everything shut down was for Old Dominion Truck Lines, and HEB was having their huge convention right across the way, and I wasn't really familiar with them, but I see that. Man, it's always great seeing you, Robin. Thank you for being here today. As always, you're the best. Boy, Robin's a great speaker, great guy, great musician. So the point of all of this is we have to constantly ask ourselves, are we trapping ourselves within the prison of our own thinking? We are so ready to accept any information that confirms what we already believe. Haven't you seen that in what's going on in coronavirus? Is that people will try to they won't listen to a particular expert, like, Here's what the Mayo Clinic says. It's that let's take what we already believe and then let's go try to find a doctor that believes with that. I'm not trying to make this political. I'm not trying to make this, but it's fascinating to me because it's just like, it doesn't matter what your position is. You could find a Greek philosopher, or you could find a verse in the Bible, or you could find something that would agree with just about anything, right? If you're not looking for context, if you're just looking for a quote, you can find that. And I think we tend to do that nowadays. We drastically search for information that agrees with what we've already decided that we believe in, and therefore our experience traps us. I don't mean this about the virus. I mean this about how we think about our businesses, about how we think about our lives, about how we think about our jobs. Look, you're not learning if all you're doing is listening and reading what confirms what you already know. How do we expand what we think if all we do is read what already agrees with what we already think? I've said forever that one of the biggest aspects to me of going to college, I went to a small college south of Indianapolis, Franklin College. And one of the things that was the best aspect of college for me was walking in a classroom and having a professor really challenge my thinking. And even to the point of, as we talked about religion, I took a class called Philosophy and Religion, and challenging my faith. Why do you believe what you believe in? And what I realized is if you can't defend what you think or what you believe, then how strong are you in that faith or that belief? If I can't describe why I believe it, and if I can't defend why I believe it, is my belief really that strong, or has my belief just been convenient? I think the very same thing is what's happening with business right now, and with all the challenges that we're facing with coronavirus and everything else, and the economy and the division we have in this country, is that we just want to hear and read what we've always heard and read because it seems safe. But in fact, it's kind of the most dangerous thing of all. Yeah, Danny, it is. It's kind of, I posted on my personal page. I don't know if you saw it, but it's kind of funny. There's a fake seal that's going around, and it says, it's got the thumbs up from Facebook, and it says certified Facebook expert. Uh-oh, dogs are barking. But yeah, and Charles, you got it right on the money. You become an echo chamber. That's exactly what you become. So here's, to wind this up, here's what I want you to think like. Think like a beginner. If you were starting over, what would you do? And I always hate the question, if you knew then what you know now. Well, the fact is you didn't know then. You're going to make decisions based upon the information that you have around you at that particular time. Dr. Nito Cobain, the president of High Point University, and a great friend of mine, we were in a call the other day. And one of the things he said is, as president of this university, part of what he's realized is for every decision that you make, you probably only have 65 to 70% of the information. There's no way that you can get 100% of the information. You got 65 to 70% of the information. So what you have to do is make the best decision that you can with the information that you have. So none of us are ever going to have 100% of the information that we need to do something, to move forward. So what we have to do is to think like a beginner, get back to the core, get back to square one. Here's a question I'll challenge you with. If somebody was going to start a business to compete with you, or even a salesperson coming in your sales territory, whatever it might be, if somebody was going to start a business to compete with you and they were going to be a difficult, challenging competitor, what would they be doing that you're not? What's the one thing that you could do if you were starting over? What's one new thing? What's one new thing that you would do differently if you were starting over? And then the question, of course, is, if that's what you'd do if you were starting over, why don't you start doing it now? Carrie says, I never would have grown as a person if I wouldn't have been surrounded by folks that challenge your thinking. Yeah, exactly, Carrie. What a great point. I mean, it gets so comfortable not to be challenged, but yet there's no growth there either. Yeah, there you go. You had to go back to square one, brainstorm, pivot. That's what we're doing, Danny. Absolutely. So if you were starting over, what's one thing that you'd do differently, or one new thing that you might do in addition? And that's where we need to get. Hey, before we finish up for the day, I just want to mention that registration is open for post-pandemic events. It's kind of a pre-opening. We're doing a big announcement coming up later this week. But it is open for you. It's for meeting professionals. It's for professional speakers, financial advisors that have to put on events. You used to have a retirement seminar somewhere, or a client event, and now you got to do it on virtual. How do you do that? It's for anybody that's had to move their business from face-to-face to virtual. By the way, I just saw this quote from the former CEO of American Airlines. Robert Crandall, former CEO of American Airlines, just said, "You're never going to see the volume of business travel that you've seen in the past." Will it be as necessary to send road warriors out to make sales calls or go to events? He said, "I have serious doubts about whether that will ever happen again." So if you think you can just hunker down and wait for times to change, you'd better be learning and preparing now for what you can do. So postpandemicevents.com is where you sign up, and you can take $50 off with the coupon code DISTINCT50 for the viewers of Daily Distinction. And by the way, we're less than 2 weeks away. The Ultimate Business Summit is August 13th and 14th. The price of coming to the Ultimate Business Summit isn't much for all that you're going to get. Just go to ultimatebusinesssummit.com. You can see what Larry Winget, Randy Pennington, and I were doing. And by the way, this is the last time we're ever going to do it. If you've ever thought about going to UBS, you got to do it now, because this is it. And if you enter the coupon code Scott when you check out, you get $100 off, which means it's under $100 to attend the Ultimate Business Summit. And VIP becomes only $397. So both of those, I really hope you check out, both postpandemicevents.com and ultimatebusinesssummit.com. Bonnie, get on it. Get with it. We want to have you there. You bet. Oh, see, there you go. Children is something that will certainly challenge your thinking and your opinions. Well, that's it for today. Just doing the half the size show we typically do. We could go on about this topic even more. And by the way, if you got any ideas for topics, please, shoot them to me here on Facebook or YouTube or wherever in the comments section and Twitter. I'd really appreciate that. Joseph Jaffe is going to be our guest on Tuesday. We got some other guests we're talking to. Hope to get them on. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great Sunday. Tonight, by the way, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, it's the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. We'll see you either tonight or I'll see you tomorrow on the next Daily Distinction.